It was running so good, then this had to happen. Well, hi friends, it's Wayne Polson coming to you from Heartwood, right next door to SM Heartland, and man, it has been a busy month since that last video I released. Over Father's Day weekend, we had our second annual, I guess we'll start calling it Heartland Campout. Originally it was going to be Susie's family campout, the Ward family campout, but it turned out that we have a lot of people coming to this thing every Father's Day, and who knows, maybe it can be you next year. But we had, my 4 daughters were here, my daughter from Arizona, Lauren, my daughter from Florida, Amber, and then my 2 daughters that live here in this area were here for the whole weekend. We had all of Susie's family, pretty much all of Susie's family, not quite everybody, but we probably counted over 50 heads, including children, at this event over the weekend. We had horse riding on the trails, we had ATVs and side-by-sides. I mean, man, just a great time. It was a lot of fun. Water balloons, and next year we want to have some live music. We want to throw in a zip line or 2 and a water slide. We're going to do some stuff like that. It's going to be a great time, folks. So I don't know where this is going. I don't know if it's going to become a thing where we're just going to invite everybody, but the idea is there, right? I mean, it could be a cool kind of a buck and stock deal, only here at Heartwood or Heartland. We would probably call it something like, you know, the annual SM Heartland Campout. What does that sound like to you? Put something in the comments, let me know what you think. Other things that have been going on. So we had the campout. We have a new addition to the family. All right, so here's the latest addition to the family. This is Hope. She's a 20-year-old registered quarter horse mare, and she's pretty well trained. We just have a couple issues with her. We've had her for about a week, and one of the issues is she doesn't like to be tied. She will sit back and tug against that tie, desperately trying to get away from it. So we're trying to break her of that. We're not sure that we're keeping her for those reasons, because we really got her on the premise that she would be good for the children. She's really for a 9-year-old. For a 9-year-old, yeah, and she's really good on the trails. She is solid. Yeah, she's solid. She's a good stable horse. It's just some little quirks that we have to figure out if we can break her of those things or if we should just return her. And what's the other thing? She does whip her head around sometimes when we're riding her, like as if she's being attacked by a swarm of flies, but it's really not always that, we don't think. So, not sure what's causing that issue. So that's Hope. Let's hope there's hope for Hope. Yeah. And I also, have the gas tank project. Well, here's the gas tank project. From the last video on this, you knew that I had it reconditioned here locally and was waiting for it to get filled. We were waiting for prices to come down. So we were able to get 150 gallons for $3.39 a gallon at this point. So everything's good to go here. We have diesel on the left, gas on the right, and we had to relocate the tanks to this spot next to the garage temporarily because we are in the process of very soon having a concrete slab poured right out over there. And we're also going to have a 24 by 24 foot slab put in directly in front of the garage. So that's old news, but I just wanted to give you an update on where we are right now. Remember the one video that I rebuilt this CS2511T top handle saw? It was a fun project. I got it rebuilt, got it tuned. We put a straight pipe on it from Egan power saws here. This was something I learned through my friend Michael Snow. And Michael Snow, it ran great. We got it running good. I took it on the first tree job after that. And as this thing was hanging from my lanyard on the side of my belt, my legs started getting wet. And what I found, folks, is that there is actually a fuel leak. It's hard to see here, but the fuel and oil reservoir is a part of this whole engine casing here, or whatever you want to call this module. And so here you have the fuel and the oil, or vice versa, oil and fuel. And right in this area, right in here on this piece, there is a fracture. And it's probably from back pressure when that handle got compressed. This whole piece probably just pushed back in and made a crack into the fuel reservoir. So I have fuel leaking out of this saw. So folks, I had to break down and buy one of these. I tried using glue. I tried using some kind of, epoxy, E6000 glue, whatever. Nothing was working. The gasoline just didn't agree with it, and so I'm going to have to replace this. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another teardown, and this should go a little bit quicker because I've done it before now, and what I want to do is kind of go through this systematically, and this video will be sort of like a how to tear this saw apart and how to build it back up. I mean, because I'm taking it down to everything, taking everything out, right? So let's get to it. All right, so the clutch cover, pull that off. There we go. I'm also going to want to make sure that the fuel's removed, and in this case, I think I've already done it. I still have oil in here, but I'm not going to worry about the oil, but the fuel is empty. And I might as well just pull this off because I will be using this in the new assembly. So we'll lay that over there. Spark plug and plug cover. Let's take a look at that. That's right back here. I've already got the plug out. I'm going to pull this cover off right here. I'm just going to lay that with the spark plug over here. Alrighty, what's next? I think what we'll do next is the muffler cover, which is going to be this cover right here. By the way, this is a T27 for most of these, I think for all of these screws, T27 Torx bit. Now, I do have one for my DeWalt here that I'll probably break out because it'll speed the process up a little bit, but right now I'm just going to use this little handheld deal. And there's a little latch back here. I'm going to pop that out. Okay, he's out of there. There's the straight pipe. Okay, I'm going to remove the recoil starter cover right here. Take out 3 screws. One here on the back side, and then 2 in the front. And we'll pull that thing off, set that over there, put the screws with it. Alrighty. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the clutch. Now, there are some tools that you can purchase to accommodate removing or to facilitate removing the clutch and the flywheel. What it consists of is a piston stop that you can screw right here into the spark plug hole, and that stop will actually lock the piston in position so that you can torque against the clutch screw here, or the clutch nut, and the same thing for the flywheel. I've also found I can use an impact wrench on it. If you hold the flywheel with your hand, you can use an impact wrench on this to get it free. Bell hopper, I don't know what you do normally for that, but let's see if I can go ahead and get this off. And this clutch threads backwards. This is left-hand thread. So to take this off, you have to spin it this direction clockwise, okay? So you want to set up your wrench so that you can do that. All right. So there we go. Now, when you take this clutch off, there will be a washer inside here, right there. Do not lose track of that washer. You're going to need that when you put this back together. Okay, so I'm going to pull that out like that. I'm going to take this washer, lay it there, take the clutch itself, or then I'm going to take the bearings, everything that I need. I'm going to lay that off to the side. It'll go back on in reverse order. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is I want to remove this upper shield here. This little plastic shield. It's pretty easy to get out. I'm just going to pop it out. Right there. That's coming out. Okay, and then the carburetor cover. Let's get that off of here. Here's the carburetor cover, air filter. Now I want to remove the chain brake. And actually, before we can do that, we have to pull this little shield off here. So let's get that off out of the way. And that doesn't really need to be removed. This one down here does. This is held in place by the chain catcher. So we've got that. This plate then comes off. We'll set that aside. Now we can go ahead and take the chain brake lever off. Just one screw right there. And then it's pinned over here. There's a pin right there. So what you want to do is you want to pull this off just like this, and it'll just pop right off of there. Okay, so we'll set that aside. All right, that's the chain brake lever. So now we're going to take the two screws and the side handle off. So there's going to be one right here behind this little cover. Okay, that's done. And then there's another one right down here. Probably don't really, well, I do need to take everything off because I'm replacing the whole engine housing, so yeah. Normally you don't have to take all this stuff off just to get the engine out, but that's not what we're doing, so. Then this sort of unthreads from here, just like, or not unthreads, but it sort of twists off. I'm going to keep this screw. And this screw. Together with this. I'm also going to go ahead and pull this suspension spring out here, and I'm going to keep it with the handle. So now we're going to take the top handle. There are just a screw right here that we're going to take out. Okay, one. Now, when we take that out, that releases this half of the top handle, which also holds the throttle and the throttle lockout in position. We're going to take those out right now just so that they don't get in our way. And I won't be able to take the throttle linkage out until I pull the carb, and that is going to come out next here. Coming along with the carb is going to be this thing they call the elbow. I don't know why it's called an elbow, but it's what holds the air filter in place. It's probably called an elbow because these sort of look like elbows, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to set that off to the side here. And now the carburetor, it's held in by friction at this point. There is a fuel line that is mates with this barbed pipe right here, and then that just comes right out. I'm going to go ahead and just leave the linkage on there like that. This is the primer connection here. There's another handle or another screw here for the handle. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. This is also connected to a suspension spring. I think what I'm going to do with this, just for fun, is I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to put this screw right here where it's going to go in the future, so I don't lose it. Now there are two screws that are holding the handle in place, and there's this little, basically a little plug that goes in here and gives you access to one of the two screws. Both screws are right here. It holds this intake bellows. That's what they call it. They call it an intake bellows. It's really not an intake bellows. It's where the fuel mixture goes into the intake of the carb or of the cylinder. Once those are loose, then the whole top handle comes free. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this black coupler with the handle, and the white coupler I'm going to keep with the fuel tank tubing. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I don't lose track of which one goes where. Okay, so that's the main reason for that. Okay, and this little plug, I'll just have to remember that it goes back in here. I'm going to stick it back in there right now. The next thing I want to do is take this vent and tubing assembly out of the fuel tank. There it is, and here's the fuel filter. Just like before, I'm going to take the new housing. I'm going to go ahead and just put this in right now. There's no reason why I can't do that, eh? Okay, so that's in place, ready to go when we reassemble. All right, I'm going to remove the ignition module, this little blue piece right here. I'm going to take that out at this time, so wires will come with it. There we go. I've already gapped this air gap between the ignition coil and the flywheel. It's 10 thousandths. So I'll make sure to re-gap that when I put it back together. All right, I'm going to pull this out along with the stop switch. I think we're ready for the flywheel, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that flywheel off. Whoops, where did this come from? Okay, these things are important, by the way. These little black insulators go onto these bosses here where the ignition coil mounts to the engine itself. So you want to make sure you don't lose those. Okay, I'm going to put those down here with the coil. All right. Now, here's where I had a little difficulty trying to get this flywheel off. As a matter of fact, what I ended up doing, I did something that you shouldn't do. I tried using a screwdriver to hold this thing steady while I broke the nut free. That didn't work. I ended up breaking one of these fins off. So what I had to do to keep it balanced, I shaved the opposite fin the same amount, so this flywheel will not lose its balance. We're going to see if that is true or not. If that fails, I'll have to replace the flywheel. No big deal. Okay, I can do that. But in order to get this free, this is where the piston stop comes in nice and handy. Okay. Now, one of the alternative ideas that I saw someone use for stopping the piston is to take a piece of rope, and what I'm gonna do, since I have to turn this nut in the counterclockwise direction this way, I'm gonna blow into the exhaust until it closes, and I'm going to watch for that piston to come up. Okay, I want to make sure the intake and the exhaust ports are closed. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this piece of rope in here through the plug opening, just like that. I don't want the piston to move, so I'm going to hold the flywheel while I do this. I'm going to stuff this down in here pretty good. What this will allow me to do is to turn against the piston and basically it'll lock the piston into place so I can get the flywheel off. Let's see, so that was... And I'm going to be going this direction. Just like that. Now, it might not be that easy the first time you do it because I've already had this off, but that's the way I loosened it. Once I ended up breaking this, I realized I need a better way to do it. And this way, you won't harm anything with this piece of rope. And it's important to not let the rope get into the ports, because then you could break off, parts of the rope into those ports, and that wouldn't be good. All right. So that's a done deal. Now, the other thing I want to do, though, is I'm going to leave this nut on here. I don't want it to be tight, but I want enough thread that I can take another bolt and thread it down so that now I can tap on this, and I know it's not going to damage any threads. All right, I'm just going to give it a wrap. And that was enough to loosen the flywheel. So there's our flywheel, folks. Okay, so with that done, and by the way, they make a tool specifically for that as well. I just don't happen to have it. I need to get the oil pump out, so there's a little cover right here. This cover pops out. And gives us access to the oil pump. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these screws here. There are 2 screws on the oil pump. Now, what I noticed when I did this before is that the adjustment screw up here interferes with the housing when you're trying to pull this pump out. And what I found, though, is you can actually push that in. It's sort of spring-loaded, and you can get it past the housing that way. So there it is. I'll put that over here. Okay, don't lose this little washer. That has to be in place. And then this is the supply line for the oil reservoir. I'm going to pull that out of there. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in to the new assembly as well. Okay, so that's in place. It's ready to go. All right, at this point, I've got to be careful that I don't get oil all over the place because I didn't drain the oil earlier. So let me go ahead and drain that oil out now. Should have done this ahead of time. All right, there we go. That is drained. Clean up my mess. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, since I'm at it here, I'm going to go ahead and remove this suspension spring here. There's a screw right there. I'm going to move that over as well right away. That's in place. All right, the 3 screws that are holding the engine block in place are somewhere. Where are they? One is here, one is here, and one is back here. So that's 1, 2, 3. And there it is, folks. Disassembled. Now, one thing I did notice, there's a heat shield in here that I'm going to want to transfer over to the new housing. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that shield off and make sure I get that put into the new housing as well. I need to take this screw with me, and I'm going to go ahead and just transfer that over right now. The other thing I have is this. I don't know how to get this one out. I'm going to have to work on that. I'll save that for later. But I think that's the only thing I have left to transfer over. There's nothing on this side except for this little lanyard deal here. Let me get that going. All right, it's in. There we go. All right, so let me see. I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. I'm going to try to figure out how to do this part here, and I'll get back with you guys. Well, friends, family, and enemies, and everyone else out there, I'm going to call it quits to this video right here. I'm going to call this part 1. This will be the disassembly of the CS2511T top handle saw. I'm going to get that guide bar bolt out and moved over to the other housing. That'll be the first part of part 2 in the next video. Folks, be kind out there in your neighborhoods. Love one another. We are going to change this world. I'll tell you what, it's a strange place to live in these days, isn't it? But that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. You can form your own opinions and let that be that. So all you little kids out there, I mean, all of my grandkids and my nephews and nieces, grandnephews and nieces, is that a thing, grandnephews and nieces? Thanks for watching, all of you. Man, I mean, who? There's Tavy, Ellie, Rory. There's even Piper and Piper's brother, Miles. Miles, I think you've been watching too. And who else is out there watching? Probably Hobart, and probably Hobart is, what's his real name? What's Hobart's real name? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I just know him as Hobart. Okay, I'll think of it in a minute. And Mason, I know you watch the videos too. Mason's my tractor rider. He loves to ride with me on the tractor. And there is Dominic and Ava. Dominic and Ava, I know you sometimes see these videos as well. I'm so glad to know that you guys are watching this. I'm thankful to the families out there that are letting their kids watch this. This is a great thing. It's a big family that we have, and it's getting even bigger with all of you subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and also hit that bell so that you'll get notifications anytime I upload a new video. With that said, I think I've said everything that's required of me. I'm going to call it quits. I'll see you all in another video. Stay kind.